a tense encounter with a real biker gang, a leading lady who felt upstaged by an ape, and the surprising cast member who turned out to be a real-life rocket scientist. These are 15 weird facts about Every Which Way But Loose you didn't know.
Number 1. The movie that could have ended Clint Eastwood's career, but didn't. At the height of his Dirty Harry legacy, Clint Eastwood stunned industry insiders by embracing an offbeat, blue-collar comedy about a fist-fighting trucker with an orangutan sidekick, a concept so eccentric that agents and Warner Brothers executives reportedly warned that it could derail his star trajectory. The project was originally written with Burt Reynolds in mind. It surfaced through a studio secretary, hoping Reynolds might bite, until Eastwood read it and insisted on taking it himself. He positioned the movie as a chance to pivot into lighter, family-friendly fare, telling Variety that he hoped the PG-rated comedy would expand his appeal beyond the tough guy persona. Despite all of the misgivings, the gamble paid off. Every Which Way But Loose became a monumental box office hit, and one of Eastwood's most profitable films to date.
Number 2. The scene-stealing star who wasn't even human. Clyde the orangutan, played by a primate named Manus, may not have had top billing, but he was easily the most unpredictable and unforgettable member of the cast. Originally, another orangutan was hired for the role, but was removed early in production due to aggression. Manus, his replacement, proved more manageable, but far from easy. Manus was smart, alarmingly smart. He reportedly understood over 60 vocal and hand commands, including once to act drunk, pretend to laugh, and even flip the bird. He pulled that last trick more than once, both on camera and off. In fact, one day, he gave the middle finger to a visiting Warner Brothers executive, completely unscripted, sending the crew into fits of laughter. His intelligence came with mischief. He once locked himself inside a trailer and refused to come out. Another time, he swatted a crew member hard enough to send him to the hospital with a broken nose. He had a habit of spitting chewed tobacco, and his sweet tooth for Twinkies became legendary on set. Filming with him was so unpredictable that many takes were ruined by his unscripted antics. Cast and crew often broke character, unable to keep a straight face around him. But Clint Eastwood, ever the professional, made the effort to bond with Manus off camera, feeding him fruit and building trust. That connection paid off, as many of their most natural and charming scenes together relied on genuine interaction between man and ape. Despite all the chaos, the orangutan behind Clyde became more than just comic relief. He stole every scene he was in. By the time the credits rolled, Clyde wasn't just a sidekick. He was one of the most unforgettable characters in Eastwood's entire career.
Number 3. She didn't just play tough, she was tough. At 81 years old, Ruth Gordon took on the role of Ma. Despite her advanced age, she refused to be sidelined, insisting on performing her own driving and brawling scenes, much to the surprise of the filmmakers. She did them all with a delightfully unpolished flair that added authenticity and humor to the film. On set, Gordon was more than just a performer. She was a morale machine. She often brought homemade cookies or treats to share, keeping spirits high and bonding with cast and crew through her warmth and wit. Her stories of Broadway's golden eras from the 1930s and 40s became cherished campfire-style anecdotes between takes. Early on, Gordon reportedly didn't fully understand the film's offbeat comedic tone, believing it was beneath her. But after the first audience screening, she embraced the response with characteristic honesty, quipping, "If they're laughing, who am I to judge?" Number 4. Comedy wasn't the plan. Originally written as a gritty drama about a struggling boxer, the script caught Clint Eastwood's eye, who saw comedic potential in its tone. He steered it toward a redneck action comedy filled with bare-knuckle brawls, an orangutan sidekick, and offbeat road trip antics. Though James Fargo held the director's chair, Eastwood, in his role as producer, had a strong hand in shaping the film. He quietly trimmed overly slapstick lines, infusing scenes with his trademark blend of understatement and gruff realism. He didn't need the spotlight, not with his presence already commanding it. For key moments, especially fight sequences and moments with the animal co-star, Eastwood often guided decisions from behind the scenes, subtly steering Fargo's direction to match the tone he envisioned. In this way, Eastwood transformed a somber drama into a wild, offbeat comedy that perfectly balanced physical humor, road-weary grit, and a wink of redemption. And it proved that no one understands his comedic instincts better than he does himself. Number 5. Caught between love, lyrics, and an ape. Sondra Locke's time filming Every Which Way But Loose was far more complex than just another co-star turn. She was also Clint Eastwood's longtime partner, navigating a relationship that was losing its harmony even as they played lovers on screen. By the time production rolled around, their romance had begun to fray, marking the film with a subtle undercurrent of tension. Locke wasn't just acting opposite Eastwood. She was also performing as a country singer, something she never felt comfortable doing. Despite her reservations, the studio and Eastwood himself pushed her into musical scenes that she later described as feeling artificial, even forced. Her discomfort was plain in retrospect,
and critics didn't pull any punches, with some labeling her singing among the film's weaker elements. On top of that, Locke was uneasy with how her character, Lynn Halsey Taylor, was written. She wanted Lynn to be seen as more sympathetic and layered, but director James Fargo had mapped out a colder, more manipulative persona, and Eastwood sided with the director. Locked into a creative vision she didn't agree with, Locke found herself creatively stifled. And to add insult to injury, one day she sourly joked that the orangutan's sidekick was getting more press than she was. Eastwood laughed it off. That moment encapsulated the mix of marginalization she felt. Acting in a film where the most photogenic star was an 8. Number 6. No sets, no permits, no problem. Instead of sketching scenes on studio floors, Every Which Way But Loose was filmed almost entirely in the real world. Country bars, cheap motels, rural highways, and honky-tonk clubs across California, Colorado, and New Mexico. One iconic spot was the Palomino Club in North Hollywood, where Philo meets Lynn towards the start of the film. To heighten authenticity and save money, the crew often shot in actual working-class venues, sometimes without permits. The bar fights and roadside brawls were staged, but shot in active locations, giving them a gritty, unscripted feel. By using guerrilla-style techniques and minimal setups, the filmmakers captured an authenticity that traditional sound stages couldn't match. Even more unconventional, the film was shot in chronological order, a rarity in movie making. That structure wasn't just for narrative flow, it was a practical decision, especially when working with Clyde, the orangutan. Because primates have short attention spans and limited capacity for repetition, shooting in order helped trainers introduce new actions gradually and maintain continuity in Clyde's behavior. It allowed him to build familiarity with the cast over time, creating more believable interactions, particularly in emotionally responsive scenes.
Number 7.
The impromptu prankster who made every scene his own. Geoffrey Lewis landed the role of Orville Boggs at the 11th hour, stepping into the part only after the original actor dropped out. At the time, he was juggling Salem's Lot and racing between sets, often shooting during the day and catching sleep in his trailer. Eastwood was so impressed by Lewis's grit and commitment that he offered him future roles on the spot. On screen, Lewis had a gift for improvisation, frequently ad-libbing his dialogue to heighten humor and timing. His natural ease brought a loose charm to the banter that shaped many scenes. Off-camera, Lewis and Eastwood kept the mood light with practical jokes. In one memorable exchange, Eastwood swapped Lewis's lunch with a can of sardines, prompting Lewis to retaliate by filling Eastwood's trailer with hay and a strategically placed pile of fake orangutan droppings, a not-so-subtle nod to Clyde's trailer habits. Despite the generational gap, Lewis also built a strong friendship with Ruth Gordon, bonding over their mutual theater backgrounds. Between takes, they'd rehearse lines together, infusing their performances with grounded warmth and camaraderie.
Number 8.
The biker you'd never expect. John Quaid played Chola, the menacing leader of the Black Widow's biker gang, but the actor behind the tough exterior was far from the character's gruff persona. In real life, Quaid had a background in aerospace engineering. He even worked at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, helping build components that landed on the moon. That intimidating screen presence? Totally intentional. But inside, he was known for being polite, thoughtful, and considerate. One cast member recalled how Quaid quietly helped fix a blown generator on set, stepping in to assist without fanfare. Though in costume he looked like he could perform mayhem at any moment, off-camera he was described as a big teddy bear. Quaid's unique blend of brain and brawn made his performance in The Black Widows both believable and undeniably unforgettable.
Number 9. Bikers who never broke character.
The actors portraying the Black Widows took their roles seriously. So seriously that many stayed in character all day on set, improvising full-throttle biker antics that fueled the film's chaotic charm. Their realism was so convincing that locals filming in rural Colorado occasionally thought they were dealing with a genuine motorcycle gang, and even called the police. Inspired by real bikers the writers had encountered, the gang's portrayal walked the line between parody and authenticity. That tension nearly came to a head during a bar shoot, when an actual biker group wandered in and didn't realize filming was underway. Tensions flared briefly until Clint Eastwood personally stepped in, diffused the situation, invited them to stick around, and they ended up in the background of the scene, blending fiction and reality in a moment of unexpected cameo magic.
Number 10. The star who needed reinforced furniture.
Manus, the real-life orangutan behind Clyde, was so strong that the production crew had to reinforce furniture and props just to withstand him. Unlike typical Hollywood animal wranglers, Manus was cared for by a dedicated trainer from a private facility, someone he trusted deeply and worked with long before the cameras rolled. To keep him calm, that trainer even slept in a trailer next to the set, starting each day with quiet bonding rituals. One crew member described it as like watching a monk preparing a tiny god for performance. Even with that care, the shoot often had to bend to Manus's moods, especially during unpredictable stretches, forcing production to pause until their star was ready to work again.
Number 11. A cop with grit and real-life valor. James McEachin, who played Officer Putnam, the tall, cool-headed half of the bumbling police duo, was far more accomplished than his comic relief role suggested. Before acting, McEachin had served as a combat soldier in the Korean War, surviving a brutal ambush and earning both a Purple Heart and a Silver Star. His real-life military experience gave him a quiet authority that made him stand out, even in scenes played for laughs. On set, his presence was steady and commanding, and he often shared war stories with the crew between takes, stories that gave everyone a deeper respect for the man behind the badge. In a production full of absurdities, one wardrobe mishap added a new layer of realism. The costume department accidentally issued real California Highway Patrol uniforms instead of mock-ups. During a break, 2 actors, still in costume, were mistaken for actual officers and asked to step in during a parking lot dispute. They played along until someone realized they were actors, not cops. Number 12. He fought like it mattered, and it did. Walter Barnes, who played the legendary Tank Murdoch, didn't treat his role as a lightweight cameo. He threw himself into it with unwavering commitment. A one-time professional football player, Barnes trained for weeks before the climactic brawl with Philo. Even as age and health challenges loomed, he insisted on doing all the fight scenes himself, firmly stating, "I want to go out strong." Clint Eastwood took the same approach. Rather than relying on stand-ins, he trained in old-school bare-knuckle boxing and committed to doing every stunt himself. Most of the fight scenes were mapped out loosely, with choreography sketched only hours before shooting. Eastwood and Barnes chose to feel out the action in real time, staged for safety, but shot to look raw and unpredictable. Number 13. A soundtrack that came together after the fact. The music in the film was as improvisational as the storyline. Songs weren't set at the start, but chosen after filming wrapped up. This late-stage approach gave the soundtrack a quirky, off-kilter charm that echoes the road trip chaos on screen. Rather than a uniform score, the album became a patchwork of country hits, instrumentals, and inside joke tracks, complete with a cheeky monkey see, monkey do motif, perfectly mirroring the film's mix of humor and heart. A couple of the songs didn't just add flavor. They dominated the charts. Eddie Rabbitt's theme song, Every Which Way But Loose, rocketed to number 1 on the Billboard Hot Country Singles chart, spending 3 weeks at the top. Mel Tillis's Coca-Cola Cowboy also grabbed the top spot in summer 1979. Meanwhile, Charlie Rich's I'll Wake You Up When I Get Home reached number 3, and Tillis's Send Me Down to Tucson climbed to number 2. The soundtrack may have been a rough sketch made after production, but it wound up capturing the film's spirit and producing real country hits in the process. Number 14. The real-life fight legend hiding in plain sight. Al Silvani wasn't just another face in the crowd. He was a legendary boxing trainer whose client list reads like a who's who of mid-century ring royalty. He conditioned over 20 world champions, including Jake LaMotta, Floyd Patterson, Henry Armstrong, Carmen Basilio, and Rocky Graziano. Beyond the ring, he became a Hollywood fixture, bringing authenticity to fight scenes as an actor, technical advisor, and assistant director. In a perfect bit of casting, Silvani appears on screen as Tank Murdoch's manager. Behind the scenes, he also worked as a second assistant director, an all-hands-on-deck role that let him shape the physicality of the film in his dual capacity as trainer and crew member. The result? One of the few productions where a bit player was literally and figuratively linking the boxing world to the big screen. Number 15. Critics grimaced. Audiences went wild. Expectations were low. Critics largely dismissed the film. Some even labeled it career suicide for Clint Eastwood. But audiences proved them spectacularly wrong. The film shattered the box office, earning around $104 million on a modest $5 million budget, making it one of Eastwood's most lucrative hits of the 1970s. The surprise success quickly sparked follow-up plans. Eastwood agreed to return for a big-screen sequel, Any Which Way You Can. But when Warner Brothers pitched a sitcom based on Philo and Clyde, he declined. He reportedly didn't want the film's offbeat charm stretched thin in a weekly format and preferred to keep the story larger than life. What do you think? Does this movie deserve its place as one of Clint's best films? Let us know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, hit like, subscribe, and share. Thanks for watching.